What is up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Nest Podcast. This is episode number 83, the Andre Reed episode, and it is presented by Sportszilla. I'm your host, Brandon, and joining me is my co-host, Zach. And Zach, tonight we have a special guest with us. We've had professional ball players on here before. We've had professional wrestlers and stuntmen, but we've never had a king. But tonight we have King Hap joining us. Hap, what's up, my man?
What's up, gentlemen? Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate you guys having me on the show.
We appreciate you being here and putting up with the technical difficulties before we came on. We're about 30 minutes late. So those of you watching and listening out there, thank you for putting up with it. I know we've gone live a few times here and there, just kind of teasers. And thanks for putting up with us. Now we're ready to get into things.
Best things come to those who wait.
That's it, my man. And, we were talking before we went live, and you just got back from Florida, and I'm in Florida. I heard on your episode that you were talking a lot about the travel concerns with the coronavirus.
Absolutely.
That's something that's gone absolutely haywire, and it's threatening to close down some sporting events.
It actually, what I'm hearing too is I don't know if this is how breaking news this is, but Baltimore Orioles player Trey Mancini has been sidelined with a undisclosed illness. And there are rumors around major league teams that this gentleman could potentially been exposed to the coronavirus. Should that have happened, his team himself, his teammates, people they played against, other people. I mean, again, until some official comes out, this is hearsay. But a lot of these people could be being quarantined. This could be enormous and potentially even threaten, Major League Baseball season beginning.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it. The teams that he's played, we're halfway through spring training. Pretty much everybody in Florida has played the Orioles at this point. So, wow. That would close down the entire league, and that is not what we want. I heard several other things. The Olympics, they're not even going to have spectators at the torch lighting ceremony. Stuff like that is crazy to me. That this illness is threatening to essentially stop sports and stop what we like to do, which is talk about sports.
Absolutely. Another thing too was the Arnold Classic out in Cleveland, Ohio last weekend. When they canceled the expo. There was 350,000 people, planned to come in and out of those doors from all over the world. They actually canceled that, shut that down. They only allowed spectators to go in for the finals. And that was just a limited number of people that had tickets to just that event. But all those other people that traveled to Cleveland, Ohio, were kind of stuck there. You know what I mean? Just a breeding pot of germs. I'm just glad I wasn't there this time. I attend the Mr. Olympia annually out in Las Vegas, and I've been trying to get myself down to an Arnold Classic, but I can't bring myself to travel somewhere that cold at this time of year.
No, I don't blame you, and especially with all that's going on. The traveling and all that stuff. People wearing the mask in the airport, and it's a scary time. Coronavirus is definitely something that's real, and it seems to be getting more real by the minute. But Hap, we brought you on because we wanted to talk about something that's near and dear to both of our hearts, and that's the American League East. I know you're a wicked big Sox fan. That's part of the page that you're a part of. And
Absolutely.
And you can see behind me, I've got the Red Sox flag flying. The American League East. It's going to be a different monster this year, I think.
I think so too. And what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing a lot of movement. And as we got different teams with injuries, things like that, especially the Boston Red Sox right now, it's like, who is going to be their fifth starter? There's a host of names, and the thing I'm hearing most recently is there's going to be an opener, and if there's an opener, now I feel like we're starting to be one of those teams that are going to be bottom of the division, and we'll see what happens. We do have a good lineup, but can our lineup cover up for pitches that are minor league quality? I don't know.
Well, I don't want to completely discredit the opener because Chaim Bloom came from Tampa Bay, who invented the opener position and made it to the playoffs. Isn't that the goal? Make it into October?
Yep, but if you say it depends on, it's going to always depend on the staff. I mean, if you're putting a guy out there who's not qualified to do it and isn't going to get you a run through the lineup, an inning or two of clean baseball, I mean, you can use an opener. I mean, a closer. It doesn't matter if if you don't have the arms to get you through that first inning or two, you're gonna be in for a long season.
I think a good combination of pitchers that the Red Sox should utilize in that fifth starting role is the combination of Brian Johnson and the new cat McHugh that just came over from the Houston Astros. I think both of them combined can get you 6 to 7 innings every time out. And that's what you want out of a starter anyway. You just kind of meld those two together and you have a quality starter.
I agree. I think that would be the best case scenario. I mean, McHugh has had some decent seasons. I'm not really too sold on him, especially in a big market team. I'm thinking that, after this year, hopefully we go out and get ourselves another quality arm or two. But right now, with the Chris Sale, I think, and I hate saying this, I mean, my website, if you guys go to it, it's the Wicked Big Sox Fan on Facebook. The Wicked Big Sox Fan, everybody there knows that we bleed Red Sox. I mean, we just bleed Red Sox red. My problem is that right now we're acting like a small market team, and with Chris Sale being one of our top paid players, I think he's done. I think this is stick a knife in. Stick a fork in him because, truthfully, if he does go ahead and get Tommy John surgery, which I think is in the cards, you're looking at between 12 and 18 months of a recovery period, which means he's going to miss the next 2 seasons.
Yeah, if he's going to have Tommy John, he should have had it last September.
Agreed.
But I've been thinking about it a lot this offseason, especially since we just traded off Mookie. We just got rid of a lot of big assets. Signing Chris Sale was one of the things that put us over. He didn't need to be extended when he got his extension. Dave Dombrowski was acting on the feel-good feelings from winning a World Series and said, you get some money. Nathan Eovaldi, you get some money. Hey, anybody else that wants some, you can have some money, except for you, Mookie Betts.
I think that Nathan Eovaldi deal is going to look pretty good this year. I think that he's going to be a major contributor to this team. And if we have any shot of any postseason, I think that Nathan Eovaldi is going to pretty much have to anchor the staff.
I think he's going to have to be clutch, but I think the real workhorse is going to be Erod. That dude, he has the potential to be an ace. And if he can just stay healthy and stay from tripping over his own dumbass, we'll be all right.
Yep. And if anybody who does listen to my show, on Wednesday nights at 7:00, I'm on the Lenny Melnick Fantasy Sports Network live with my co-host Taco. And one of the things I always talk about is body frame. And Erod actually has that massive frame, like the Roger Clemens type frame, where he's pitching from his legs, and as opposed to a Chris Sale who's throwing with like a slingshot motion with the arm. The only pitcher that ever really worked out for and actually had an extended excellent career, I feel like, was Pedro Martinez. And if you ask me, Chris Sale's a great pitcher, but I don't see him, because Pedro Martinez filled into his body, whereas I don't feel like Chris Sale ever has. He's very, very thin.
Yeah. If you watch games on NESN, you hear Eck talk all the time about how he had such a wild delivery and stuff like that. He's kind of in that Chris Sale vein, in that he was just trying to bend and torque his body to get as much violent velocity as he possibly could out of it. Whereas, to your point, Erod uses that lower half and is very smooth with his delivery.
Yep. He's actually, like I said, my co-host Taco is actually a huge fan of Erod, and I can see this will, he's going to be all over that all season. I'm going to be hearing a lot about Erod, so I'm hopeful that you're right and Taco's right, because we'd really like to see somebody like Erod step up. If Eovaldi steps up as well, and then down the line you got a Martin Perez. This guy's been pretty durable. He throws a lot of innings, but he is what he is.
Yeah, exactly. It's hit or miss with him. Even in spring training, he got lit up in the first inning against the Yankees, and then he came back and was brilliant in his most recent start. So yeah, it's going to be a mixed bag for that guy. Offensively, I think the Red Sox are going to be fine.
I agree.
I think they've got plenty of firepower still. Losing Mookie is going to hurt. There's no getting around it. But you still got JD. You still got Benny, who's looking aggressive at the plate this spring. You've got Rafi Devers, who stepped out on his own last year and is ready to become a superstar in the league. And then, to me, the best shortstop in the American League, Xander Bogaerts.
I mean, you make great points, and I can tell you, the Wicked Big Sox fan, Big Joe, his number one favorite player is Rafael Devers, and he thinks this guy is the next big thing in Boston. He thinks he's a lifer here, and I hope he's right, because I'd like to see a guy like him anchor this lineup for a while. One person I'm not sold on and I'm not crazy about is Alex Verdugo. And if you listen to that, the Happy Hour King happens, which is my podcast, guys. I have blacklisted Alex Verdugo. I'll never root for him when there's only been 3 guys that I've ever blacklisted. I mean, one was Jeff Green when he got traded to the Celtics. I did not like that Kendrick Perkins deal. I mean, that drove me bananas. We traded away our big man. We couldn't get a rebound. Cost us a trip to the NBA Finals. Second, Jay Bay. He's on the blacklist. He is not allowed in the Happy Hour Social Club as well. You trade Manny Ramirez for him. See you later, pal. We want nothing to do with you. And now Alex Verdugo, when you trade away the greatest 5-tool player that ever played for the Boston Red Sox and you get back a guy with a broken back, he's not for me. I'm not rooting for him. I don't care if he bats 600.
So you didn't care that he hopped up and gave Poppy a big hug in the clubhouse and all that stuff? Didn't do anything for you?
No, I'd have been, if it was his wife that hopped up and gave Poppy a hug, I'd be like, that's even better. But I don't, I understand he's a fan of the Red Sox. I'm a fan of the Red Sox. You don't want me leading off and playing right field, I'm sure.
I mean, I don't know. Can you hit?
I mean, hey, I did, as it was said on the last episode, I did once hit into a triple play in softball, which is pretty difficult.
That's pretty hard to do. Zach, how do you see the AL East shaping up this year? We're over here bumping our gums about the Red Sox, but there are 4 other teams that are in the American League East. So let's kind of hear what you think is going to happen with them.
Yeah, I think with all of the recent injuries, it really threw everything up in the air. I mean, Severino is down. What's his name from the Marlins is down yet again. Yeah, so yet again, I think Judge is hurt too.
Yep, Judge is out.
The Yankees are feeling it again this year with the injuries. I think the Blue Jays have a few good young pieces. I don't know if it's enough, but it might be with all these injuries to the Red Sox and the Yankees. I don't know. It's very up in the air. I think the Blue Jays don't have enough pitching to hold off everyone's big hitters, basically. And of course the Orioles are bottom of the barrel yet again. That's another team that's just they're never in the running for anything. They don't ever spend money to get players. The players that they do have always end up leaving. So this division to me is very up in the air, I think.
I agree.
But it wasn't a week and a half ago.
Yep.
The Yankees, by all accounts, were running away with the division a week ago. And then all of a sudden, you mentioned it, Severino out with Tommy John. Paxton's still out for half the damn season. What's his name? The guy that's got the domestic violence, Herman.
Oh, yes, Herman.
He's out for like half the year because he's got 60-something games left on his suspension. And then the injuries to the sluggers. Stanton out with his calf injury. Judge with his fractured rib, stress fracture in his rib, which apparently he got from batting practice.
And one other thing, I'm not sure if you guys heard, Gary Sanchez is having some mobility issues as well. And with Gary Sanchez, if you think about it, if they lose Judge, Sanchez, and Stanton, that's a lot of firepower.
That's 130 homers right there.
Yeah.
So that's a significant, very significant. So to your point, Zach, the American League East is back up for grabs, and the Boston Red Sox could potentially be the best team out there. You remember last season they got off to a horrendous start, and they were never able to fully recover. If they would have got off to a season last year where they were even playing 500 ball, come September, they would have been in the running for a wild card. So they have a shot this year. Don't write them off. I know a lot of people are saying like, oh, they're done. They're not, especially with the good news that Chris Sale isn't going to get Tommy John maybe he will be all right for at least 15 to 20 starts this year.
I think that's wishful thinking. I'm actually when you go for one MRI, you go for two MRIs. When you go for the third, almost that reminds me in another sad Boston sports story, but Reggie Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like Reggie Lewis went to every doctor he could till he got the diagnosis he wanted, continued to play, and we all know how that ended. I think that we're dealing with something a lot less severe, but with Chris Sale going to see 3 different doctors, then they're like, yeah, you're okay to continue throwing. If the first 2 were telling him no, and now he's going to go back to a throwing program, I think we may end up with some false hope there. I think at 15 starts, I think that would be a reach.
But at the same time, David Price was sent to get the MRIs, and it came back, and he said, no, I'm going to keep playing. And then he became what should have been the MVP of the World Series that year.
Absolutely.
And then pitched the entire 2019 campaign. So, sometimes it happens. Look at Tanaka, same situation for the Yankees. He's been on the shelf with that elbow, but they say he doesn't need it, and he came back and he was pitching brilliant. So I don't know. I'm not the doctor, but
I got you. It's a matter of opinion right now until we see him actually out there, throwing some.
And that's the thing. If he comes out and he's only hitting 92 on the gun, then you know what? Go ahead and get it done. I don't care about this. No, it's a delayed start bullshit, blah, blah, blah. If he's not coming out there hitting at least 95 to start in his first appearance, then something's wrong. Nate's already hitting triple digits.
I think I see a big season here for Nate. The lady from The Legend of the Lady on Sirius XM, that's on Saturday morning, 7 a.m. to 10. Lenny Melnick and Andrea Lamont. I actually have a wager with her. I said that he would get about 12 to 15 wins. She said about 7. So we're meeting in the middle at about 10, 11, and we got a little wager there. I got over. She has under. So we'll see how that works out.
I think you're looking pretty good on that so far. So, but Zach, you mentioned something about the Blue Jays when you were going down the list, and I agree. They do have some good young studs, most notably Vlad Guerrero Jr., Kevin Biggio, and the Bichette kid, Bo Bichette. But the pitching.
Mm-hmm.
Adding Ryu in the offseason was good, but in addition to Ryu, they only have one other left-handed pitcher on their entire team. That's not good.
Right.
Not whenever you're in the American League East with a shit ton of power bats.
Right.
I do think that with them, there's going to be a lot of high-scoring games with that lineup, and I think that if these pitchers can keep it close, they're going to win some close ball games with higher scores. Because like you said, Bo Bichette, I love this kid. I think he's going to be a monster this year. Vlad Guerrero Jr., I think this is potentially a breakout season for him. I mean, everybody knows what he has the capability of doing, but I think he puts it all together this year and becomes that, cleanup hitter / potential MVP candidate down the road that they think he is. Travis Shaw's looking good with his updated swing. They also said that he started to work on that last year. He didn't have enough time to make the transition, so it's kind of a wait and see with him. I think they got him penciled in to bat 5th in that lineup with a lot of pretty decent protection. You could see a decent year as a sleeper, Travis Shaw in fantasy leagues. Just an idea.
Yeah, I mean, the mayor of Ding Dong City back in the American League East is cool and all, but this is a dude that bounced around AAA last year. He got cut from the Brewers, so it's not like we're talking about an all-star guy here.
No.
I know as a Red Sox fan, he was one of our guys. He was a fan favorite in Boston, but now he's one of them. And even with a retooled swing, I'm still seeing the guy that couldn't even hack it in the majors last year.
Yeah, he's going real late in fantasy drafts, and that's one of the reasons that I say he's a potential sleeper. He was pitiful last year. But a guy, they saying his swing's retooled. He did hit a home run. I believe it was Saturday. He took one deep. I mean, it's a wait and see with him. If he does come through, though, what a wild card that is, because you basically picked him up off the scrap heap.
Yeah, for nothing. Yeah. Yep. And I mean, moving on into the Tampa Bay Rays, that's their kind of MO is pick up guys off of a scrap heap and turn them into superstars. And they've done just that with their pitching staff. Charlie Morton wasn't from the scrap heap, but they turned him into an ace in Tampa. Plus, Blake Snell, former Cy Young Award winner, if he could have a bounce back season. And then they've got what is it, Talion that they picked up from the Pirates a couple years back in the Chris Archer deal. That kid, he should have stayed in Pittsburgh and become the ace of that staff, but they were foolish and let him go.
Glass now as well. We got the other gentleman there.
Yeah,
Name
Glass now.
escapes. Yep. He's throwing some heat. So I mean, they got some arms there, and you know that they don't overuse their arms, and their guys are usually good to go for the long run. Tampa Bay, I think, is the dark horse in this race.
Yep, I agree.
If anybody's going to knock the Red Sox out of a wild card spot or out of a playoff spot in general, it's going to be the Tampa Bay Rays.
I think that you're 100% right, and I think Tampa Bay might surprise people with their win-loss record this year, because I think that between the good pitching, their timely hitting, and the fact that they're not afraid to play old school baseball, bunting people along, things like that, they're gonna steal some victories against teams like the Yankees. Well, they got all those injuries, so watch out for the Rays early, I think.
Hap, what do you think about a guy like Austin Meadows being a potential face of that team in the future?
I think that he's an excellent guy to consideration to be the face of their franchise. This guy is, I mean, truthfully, the thing about him that I like the most is he's pretty consistent.
Yep.
And on a Tampa Bay team where you got a lot of guys who are up and down, you got guys that are, all or nothing type plays. This guy's going to be a consistent anchor in this lineup, and I like Meadows a lot. He's going real early in fantasy drafts, and for good reason. I think this man's going to be. I think he's going to be the best player on this squad.
I do too. I agree. I think he has, this is obviously forward projecting a shit ton, but he has the potential to have a Mike Trout-esque career where he's a 5-tool player that can lead the league in several different categories year in and year out.
Yep. And like you said, he's going to play some really good baseball for a really long time there. Hopefully one of these other teams don't come steal him away from the Rays. Another guy there that people aren't really putting too much thought into because he was absolutely pitiful defender his entire career is Jose Martinez. Jose Martinez now doesn't have to worry about playing the field. He's going to be there. He's going to be batting I believe he's going to be batting 5th in their lineup. This guy could have a really great season batting, behind a lot of these people that are going to be getting on base ahead of him. Mm-hmm. He was, he's always been one of those people when he was in the National League that couldn't play, consistently because he really sucked as a fielder. And I mean, going forward, now that he's got the opportunity to DH, play a little first, and emergency, at best you put him in the outfield, I'd say.
Yeah, he reminds me a lot of Marcell Ozuna, where they were great hitters. They could get you around 30 home runs a year, but they just could not play defense. So They're perfect for the American League.
Absolutely. I think that was a great signing by them picking him up. Now I think that, basically it's just put this team together and put them out there and see exactly how they gel. They have money to make moves. I mean, that the people are actually starting to come to you must know that being down in Florida, people are actually starting to come out a little bit to the stadium. I don't know if they're going to, they obviously aren't selling out games or anything, but a lot of the Boston Red Sox fans that move down there are going to their games and taking advantage of some good baseball. We'll see. I mean, if they get some fans in there and they get a little bit of money, hopefully they can make a move and pick somebody up at the deadline. That would be an excellent potential season for the Rays. They could make one more big splash at the deadline.
The biggest problem with the Rays is that stadium, Tropicana Field, is an absolute shit heap. And and the city of Tampa won't build them a new stadium. The team doesn't want to come off the millions of dollars it would cost to build a new stadium all on their own without the help of the people. So they're kind of stuck. And that's why they're exploring options to even leave the state of Florida and stuff like that. So, hopefully they do start getting some more fanfare and all that stuff so that they would stay. But I think that the writing's on the wall for them to be out within the next 5 years.
Yeah.
One thing that I actually heard also that could potentially help out the Tampa Bay Devil Rays is that the Tampa Bay Rays, they say that they could potentially split their time between Montreal and Tampa Bay. That would be, in my eyes, that's probably the best case scenario for them because Montreal doesn't have enough fare to actually have a team, and Tampa has the same issue. You put this together and you run something like that. Now, you're talking maybe you get some sold out stadiums for half of the games of the year. You know what I mean? Because, you're not going to sell out 81 games, but if it's, 40, you got a shot.
my problem with that comes from the player's perspective. If you are playing 41 of your home games at Tampa and 41 of your home games in Montreal, then that's essentially being on the road for 120 games because you're also playing 81 on the road. And if you're a player, that's a lot of bouncing around, a lot of travel. You never really get settled anywhere.
Understood. I don't really feel bad for anybody making $20-30 million a year. I mean, they're flying first class, and it like they're back at the back of the plane and coach flying back. So I don't feel terrible for anybody that has to play professional sports in a couple of different locations. But I do think that Montreal would also turn into a home away from home, and it would be their team as well. There are some NFL teams, the Jacksonville Jaguars, I'm sure you heard, had explored something like that with London. Things along those lines. I don't think that this is an awful idea, especially with these enormous salaries. The more they get, you're going to need to, do some things like this. You're going to have teams going out of business, and teams like the Rays, who are actually excellent and bring some good players up through the minors. They're going to need to pay these people.
Yeah, you are right about that, and I'm glad you mentioned the Jacksonville Jags because they actually announced that they're going to be playing back to back in London this year for the first time ever. So it's like they are testing the waters to see if it's going to be, I guess, an ideal situation to have a full-time team over there. And I imagine if they do, it would end up being play 2 in London, play 2 in the States, play 2 in London, play 2 in the States. So that, I don't know. I don't necessarily like it, but I'm sure, it does create an opportunity to have a separate fan base somewhere else.
Yeah, and I one thing I can tell you about the Jacksonville Jaguars, they are not having any big sales anytime soon for the owner of that team. That guy has more money than he knows what to do with.
Oh.
So, this guy, geez. What's funny is he actually started his own wrestling federation. I know you spoke about wrestling earlier in the show. He started his own wrestling federation because his kid was a fan.
Yep.
And I was like, no way. And I thought about it, and I looked into it, and I thought about it. I said, there's no way you can compete with Vince McMahon. And I thought this guy has a net worth of like 7 or 8 times what Vince McMahon, who's again, this guy's printing money, and the Jacksonville Jaguars have plenty of funds if they need to dip into reserves, I'm sure.
And yeah, just to drive that point home, this is a dude that had a serious offer in to just buy Wembley Stadium in England. Do you know how much money you have to even be considered to buy that?
That's amazing. The amount of money that the guy has is unspendable, and hey, he's doing well with Jacksonville. He spends up every year to the cap and everything, and hopefully they can make something work. He had a little something going for a while there. You guys actually took out the Pats there that one year, but the Jaguars. That's a show for a different day, but. The Jaguars, like you said, if they're splitting time and, Tampa's splitting time, now you actually may have a more competitive team. And in the end, in my eyes, it'd be a good move for, that other teams along the Kansas City Royals, things like this. Teams that don't have a lot of a big fan base. I think that's a pretty decent idea to look into.
Yeah, I guess we'll see down the road. It seems like Manfred's trying to change the game any way he can, other than addressing the issues that are at hand.
Yeah.
And
yep.
We all kind of know what we're talking about in that regard because it's been beaten in by every talking head out there. But the rules are changing. And the last team in the American League East that we need to talk about is the Baltimore Orioles. Zach, you hit the nail on the head when you said that this is the basement of the division, and you're absolutely right. I think the biggest problem that the team has is Chris Davis and his insanely large contract for a sub 200 batting average. And to beat all, they're stifling their best prospect along the way. Ryan Mountcastle is the 4th prospect in the Orioles organization, and he happens to play in the same position that Davis would play in. So until they can get rid of that balloon of a contract, they've got this young kid just sitting there getting older.
They have every opportunity to go ahead and move somebody to the DH position. If they wanted to bring him up and play him at first, they could move Davis to the DH position. I understand Davis isn't much of a hitter right now, although he has looked fairly good here in spring training as of late. I did notice he was hitting some lasers off the bat. He did go deep the other day, and if they can get anything out of him for that money, it would be a bonus. And there's no way anyone's taking that contract from them. So it looks like Davis is there till the end.
Yep, I agree. And aside from that, they just have young guys all over the field. Young, unproven talent that probably, not to be insulting, but they'll probably just wash out of the major leagues in the next couple years, and no one will ever remember them. Sucks, but that's the way a lot of MLB careers end up going.
You want to hear a little prediction that'll shock you guys? I think that the Baltimore Orioles are going to surprise some people this year. I actually will let you. I think that one of the best bets in Vegas this year is the over for the Baltimore Orioles. I'm a big fan of this bet. I've actually already placed it. It's been in. At the beginning of the season, I looked and I did my and I always do on the show. I talk about our legal sports wagering on the happy hour with King Hap. Baltimore Orioles at 54 wins. 54 wins you can almost get by accident.
Yeah.
If it was 54 and a half. They won 54 games last year. They can't be any worse than the team they were last year.
That's a good point.
I mean, that taking the over on that is a good bet, I would say. What are the odds?
Minus 115.
Okay. So, I mean, that's a pretty good bet.
Yep, I took that. And, if you think about it, with the injuries to the New York Yankees, the injuries to the Boston Red Sox, I mean, Boston trading away Mookie Betts, one of my locks of the season was the under for the Boston Red Sox, which at the time was at 93.5, which I, again, placed a very nice legal wager on, as well as some of my guests on my show wagered Ruth Chris dinner, and we bet that as well. But my legal sports wager was for the Red Sox under 93.5 wins.
Wow.
Yeah, that line in Vegas has already moved to 84.
I could see that. I could see under 93 for sure.
Yep. So, I mean, when the bet went in, if they were scheduled to win 54, the Orioles, and the Red Sox were scheduled to win 93.5, all of a sudden there's 10 games away from the Red Sox. I'm thinking a couple of those are going to the Baltimore Orioles.
You're looking pretty good. Yeah. You bet Ruth's Chris. Our standing bet on the Nest podcast is a pizza bet. That's how we determine our bets. Justin, our other host, is an Atlanta Falcons fan. So when the Patriots and the Falcons meet in the Super Bowl, we have our pizza bet. Justin's yet to win a pizza bet.
Ouch. So here's my question to you guys. When you do make this pizza bet now, do you deliver pizza? I mean, do they come, everyone get together and you go out for pizza, or do they have to ship it from wherever?
Yeah, like we were saying earlier, I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. Zach's in St. Louis, Missouri, and our other dude is from Johnson City, Tennessee. So whenever you're ready to pay up for the pizza bet, you just call them and say, "Hey, man, send me my pizza." And we get on the phone, and it's like, "Okay, Domino's, here you go, boom, to your house."
One of
Tip it all.
One of the guests from my show and the head of merchandise for the happy hour is Big D. Big D, actually, he and I have our wages and stuff. But when you win, you get when you wager pizza, we wager Lou Magnoli's pizza from Chicago. So he has to have it delivered from Chicago. And they mail it to my house here in West Peabody, Massachusetts, to the Wicked Big Studio.
Wow,
bet you that's not cheap.
They're up in the game, Zach. We're gonna have to step our game up if we're gonna get on the professional level. It looks like.
Man.
Absolutely, but you know what, guys? I'll tell you what. If Big D's, he's the greatest guy to bet with, because you know what, he never wins. So I mean, he's kind of like Mushroom Bronx Tale. You know what I mean? You bet with him, you know you're cashing in. He's one of the guys that's involved with the Ruth Chris bet. So I know that down the line, I'm gonna be eating some steak and drinking top shelf all night.
Absolutely.
It sounds like Justin and Big D need to have a bet to see who can finally get a win out.
The best of the worst.
Yep, Big D and Justin during the football season or something, we'll have to have a pick-off on our shows. Have them give their locks, and we'll all go ahead, walk up to the ticket window and make some money off going against them.
Hey, that sounds like a plan. Now, we've ran through the American League East. What we like to do at the tail end of that is we like to do a segment called Clearing the Benches, where we just kind of go around and talk about some of the other headlines from around the league. And this past week, one of the big headlines came out of Milwaukee, and it's that they inked Christian Yelich to a 7-year, $215 million deal. And I saw before we came on that there was a caveat to that there was $5 million annually deferred that's going to keep paying him until he's 50 years old.
Attaboy.
Genius.
Yep.
Genius.
He got the Bobby Bonilla treatment.
Yeah.
Get paid pretty much for life.
That's right. Yeah, Manny Ramirez has that from the Boston Red Sox as well. Dan Duquette, when he gave it to him, that was one of the reasons we actually were able to get Manny Ramirez. But he still gets, I believe, it's $2.2 million annually for I think it's another 3 years.
Wow. Yeah, that was he had it like a deferred of I think 15 years or something like that from when he signed. But Yelich's I think will extend for about 30 years.
Good for Yelich.
Yeah.
He deserves it too because the guy's he's not even just a superstar. The man's a super duper star perennial. I mean, he's a potential every year MVP candidate. That knee injury does scare me, but like I said, Taco, my co-host on the Lenny Melnick Fantasy Sports Network on Wednesdays, tells me that it's a kneecap. It broke. It healed. It's not like it's a soft tissue injury. This is something that you can go ahead and move on with. I mean, we'll see. I'm nervous about it. A speed guy and, a guy who's, uses his whole body in his swing. That worries me to have a knee injury. I don't know if it's going to linger at all.
Well, Hap, rest assured that I'm certain that the Brewers would have been worried about that, and they had their doctors thoroughly inspect. They've seen this guy running. They know that he's going to be fine. Otherwise, they wouldn't have put $215 million on the table.
Yeah, they make professional teams don't make mistakes like that. See the Red Sox and Chris Sale and what was that other fat guy there that the Dodgers was trying to trade us there? The closer who gained 65 pounds.
Jansen, Kenley Jansen.
No, the guy for the Mookie Betts deal. He was coming from
weird name.
Coming from Minnesota.
Brazdal or whatever.
There you go.
Gratterall. That's it.
Gratterall. So teams do make these deals and don't check that out. I'm not saying that that's the deal with Yelich. I'm sure at his age and his his potential, they were very cautious with him.
Do you know what the like parameters are for a player going off on his own to try to get like medical stuff? Like, can he go somewhere and get like some new age, like latest and greatest procedure done?
Well, if he does, he has to be careful he doesn't go to the same doctors that Jacoby Ellsbury went to because the Yankees are suing him for going for health care outside of their system, and they're opting not to pay him, which, eventually he's going to get his money through the union and stuff, but that's pretty substantial that they're like, we're just not paying you.
Yeah, because I wonder if guys that have like some sort of injury like that, can they go outside of the country and get stem cells and stuff like that you can't get here? Or do they have to get like team approval or whatever that might be? Because I mean, if players could do that, then they could essentially fix any kind of little issue that they have. I mean, depending on
the reason. Yeah, I don't understand why players wouldn't if that is. I mean, actually, myself, I actually looked into stem cell out in Colombia for my back, and it's every athlete in the world that has the option to do that. Professional wrestlers, boxers, NBA basketball players, they're going out there and doing it. I don't know if baseball players are able to, but I haven't heard of any actually going out there and doing it, except for Jose Canseco, who's long retired.
Yeah, I wonder if they're not allowed under contracts or something like that. I don't know.
I'm not sure about that one. That's a good one to look into. Next time, before I'm on the show, I'll look into that. I'll have an answer for you.
Yeah. Hey, if anybody that's watching out there happens to know, hit us in the comments. Let us know. Correct us live if you can. Zach, what do you think about the players being mic'd up during spring training?
I love it. I love the mics. The more, the better. I think it makes the everyday game more excitable. It makes the fan get an unseen view of the game. You never get to hear what the players say on the field, and you never really know what they're thinking or talking to with the guy next to them. Like if they're on second, who knows what they're saying to the second baseman. And whenever they're mic'd up, you can hear it. I think it's a great move. I think MLB should do it as much as they possibly can. Like Trevor Bauer mentioned, the MLB has more stars than any other league And I think if they mic them up as much as they can, it only helps them. I mean, who doesn't want to hear what these guys have to say while they're out there playing?
It definitely would be interesting to hear what they have to say out there. That's something I think is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I agree, Zach. I think it's awesome to hear Rizzo saying like, "Oh, I'm getting a fastball on this pitch," and then smokes one off the outfield wall, or Trevor Bauer just up there telling guys what he's going to throw them and still getting them out. Like that's pretty badass. Whenever you can see their personalities coming through during the game, and that's what Bauer was talking about. Market the players. Don't change the game. Market the players. These are the guys that kids are emulating with their batting stances, with the way that they hold their glove, or the way that they just dress even. Why not market these personalities and make the sport more popular?
Yep, for sure.
Now, Hap, this is a question that I want to propose to you. We were talking earlier about the Yankees and their injury woes, most notably Aaron Judge and Gary Sanchez. Judge, it's been reported that he hurt himself during batting practice, swinging at balls. Do you think there's any connection between the launch angle swing, trying to get max velocity on every hit, to the uptick in these sluggers going down with injuries, particularly of the obliques, shoulders, and I guess the ribs?
I actually was going to say oblique injuries. I think that is actually a huge issue, and those oblique issues linger all season. That's one that I think. I mean, I have a background in fitness. I was a personal trainer for a number of years, and I know that oblique injuries is something that it's very difficult to come back from 100%, especially if you remain active. And I think that those, I mean, his swing is violent anyways. I mean, Judge is just a violent swinger. Not to mention the man is a mammoth. This is a friggin' monster swinging a tree. You know what I mean? It's like bad things are going to happen. Either he's going to hit a ball and it's going to go very far, or something's going to get injured. And it's unfortunate, but with the launch angle swing, especially for a guy in Yankee Stadium, you're going to want to stick to that, because this is going to get you a lot of home runs, a lot of money, and a lot of success playing in Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, that short porch is something that we talk about quite a bit on our show, and how a lot of guys, whenever they leave the Yankees, they don't have the success that they had when they were in New York because of that. I mean, look at Luke Voit, a guy that was basically a throwaway from the Cardinals, comes to the Yankees and he's a superstar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Voit. I was actually just looking at him. I put my pen on him for a minute. I'm like, there's another guy who's going to, potentially have a great year for them. And all these people are going to get a lot more playing time with all they're not going to have to rotate. Brett Gardner, again, another guy he's going to be in there every day, because this is the guy that can't sit because every other outfielder is injured or needs to take their turn in the DH position to not, to nurse back to health.
Yeah. I completely forgot. Aaron Hicks is still recovering from Tommy John. Yep. These are big name players on their team that are just sidelined, but they won pretty convincingly in 2019 with an injured team. So can they do it again?
One of the greatest minds in fantasy baseball history, the legend Lenny Melnick, actually always says one of the main thing with like fantasy and also in a baseball player's statistics is playing time. If you're off the field, you're not going to get any statistics. You're getting the goose egg every night. So, I mean, players, if you look at a player like, Aaron Judge, this is a guy that's going to get you no production because he's going to be on the bench. I see him being on and off the injured list all year. And, I mean, Stanton, is he going to play? Because, I mean, he looked like an old man last year, and he was injured the entire season. So the Yankees have a lot of issues. I said those 10 wins from the Red Sox on the over-under, they had to go somewhere. Baltimore's going to get a couple of them. The wins for the Yankees, who are predicted to get over 100, those are going to have to go somewhere too. Baltimore Orioles over 54 wins. Lock it up, fellas.
Yeah. The more we keep talking, the more I'm leaning towards headed down to the casino and placing that bet.
Right.
Something else happened today, guys, and I don't even know if either one of you are really aware of it. Justin Verlander got shut down.
Oh, I did not hear this.
Yeah. So Astros ace Justin Verlander shut down, and an MRI revealed that he had a mild lat strain. I don't know that it's going to be anything that will keep him out significantly this season, but they're already saying that he's going to be shut down pretty much through April.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of him this spring training. I can't remember when it was, maybe a week ago or so. They played the Cardinals, and he didn't look like he did. And I just kind of chalked it up to it's spring training. He probably needs to warm up a little bit. But I mean, maybe this was it. I don't know.
That's bad news. I mean, Verlander is again, like we were saying about stars and things like that. I mean, the guy's a superstar. He's somebody that people go to the ballpark to see. That's unfortunate. I don't necessarily ever. I actually never root for injuries, but that actually kind of hurts because there's been so much, bad news around that area, and then to see basically the ace and one of the best pitchers in the game get injured. That's pretty tough.
Right. I mean, I've gone on record and said fuck the Houston Astros several times because of that, but never would I say I want that guy hurt.
Yeah.
I've said, I understand why they're going to get thrown at, but I just hope no one gets clocked in the head with 96,
Yeah. You hit him in the backside, hit him in the wall, the old saying. I'm all about it because you know what? That's how it is. You go up there, you're making millions of dollars. You cheat. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. Same thing. Cage fighting, boxing, anything. You're gonna get hit. That's it. You cheat. They're coming at you. They're gonna cheat back, and that's just basically. I mean, if Altuve doesn't get hit with that first pitch of the season, I will be shocked.
Yeah, I kind of will too. At least the first at bat.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking someone's gonna beat them. They're gonna get tossed. So whomever it is, they're gonna have somebody warming in the bullpen already.
And you mentioned cheating. A lot of people hold this man in that spot in life, and that's Barry Bonds. Has been outspoken recently. He went on a show with Andrew Baggerly, and he kind of let it known how he feels about being left off of the Hall of Fame ballot. And he said that he feels like a ghost in a big empty house, and that MLB gave him a death sentence, and that his heart is broken because he's not in the Hall of Fame. Zach, I know we've talked about it a little bit. How does that make you feel that Barry Bonds is so distraught over this?
I mean, to me, it sounds like he's just trying to tug at heartstrings to get votes. I agree with him somewhat. I think he needs to be in, but if you're going to let him in, you should let Curt Schilling in, and you should let Roger Clemens in.
Well, Schilling isn't involved with the steroid shit.
No, I know,
but
right. But if you're panning for Barry Bonds to be in, then you need to be allowing all those other guys in too. Mark McGwire, all those other dudes. I don't think he's special out of all of those guys who got caught up in that steroid scandal. I don't know. From what is going on now at the Astros, the steroid scandal is nothing compared to this, I think. So you might see them start to come in. I don't really know. I guess it all depends on the voters, but we'll see. I don't know if he's got a good case here or not, because it's just nothing has changed in the last couple of years. All he's doing now is just complaining about it. He's not changed anything. Obviously, he hasn't played in a long time, so it's just he's trying to pan for votes. So I don't know.
I have a pretty strong opinion on this here, and I'm actually glad that you brought this up because I love talking about it. Number one, the steroid thing I find to be kind of strange. I feel like everybody was on steroids, and I also feel like a lot of the people that were on steroids, that people they don't even know. But in the end, I again, and I hate to keep bringing him up, but he's a friend of mine and my boss on the Lenny Melnick Fantasy Sports Network. But Lenny Melnick always says, and I agree with him on this, the Hall of Fame is starting to become a bit of a joke. People don't get let in for this reason. They don't get let in for that reason. Somebody said with the whole Rhode Island thing, that was part of the reason that Curt Schilling wasn't being let in. This isn't the House of Morals. This is the Hall of Fame. All right. You're famous because you play great baseball. You go in. Now, that said, they need to stop with the rules and make it more of a museum. So, yeah, go ahead. Put Roger Clemens in. Number one, Roger Clemens is, in my opinion, the best pitcher to ever throw a baseball. All right, I watched Roger Clemens from a child till adulthood, and I had never seen anybody as dominant as Roger Clemens. Were there some as good? Yes. Can you argue he's the greatest ever? Absolutely. Can you argue he's not? Absolutely. Roger Clemens is the Hall of Fame, no matter how you slice it. Period. End of conversation. For him not to be there just makes the Hall of Fame look bad. That's it. Barry Bonds, the home run king, not in the Hall of Fame. All you do is degrade the Hall of Fame. You're making it a joke. Now, my idea, the Legends idea is you make this into a museum. Go ahead, put Roger Clemens in there. Say, this man never failed a steroid test, although he was accused of doing steroids and also was highly suspicious over these years, blah, blah, blah. However, in his rookie campaign till here, and have a whole write-up on it. You're going to make this a better place to visit because you're going to go and go, holy crap. Now, you think when young children, now get to go there and read about this stuff, oh, wow, look at this whole era. Mark McGwire, wow, why wasn't he he wasn't originally elected to the Hall of Fame because of potential steroid use. Mm-hmm. Then you read about it all. You see that he was, nobody was hitting home runs like McGwire.
Use it as an educational tool. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I agree with that, Hap. I agree with that, Hap. I mean, it makes perfect sense.
I appreciate you saying that because sometimes people are like, what do you mean? You can't let them in because, don't let Curt Schilling in because he got some tax money and his business didn't work out. Get the hell out of here. It's a Hall of Fame, not a Hall of entrepreneurship. You know what I mean? This is a baseball Hall of Fame. It has nothing to do with small businesses.
Yeah, I've told the story on our show before, but I met Pete Rose out in Vegas one time. And, he is an absolute piece of work. He is an asshole. And that shouldn't keep him out of the Hall of Fame.
Right.
Nope.
Just because you're personally a prick doesn't mean that you weren't a great baseball player. And he's the all-time hit king. He should be in the Hall of Fame. But I agree with you, man. I think that they should have a steroid era wing of the Hall of Fame. Embrace that that's part of the game's history. There's a reason that 100 years later, we still talk about the Black Sox. It's because it's a part of the game's history that we all remember and we all, kind of reflect on that as that was a big deal.
Absolutely. And you know what else? I also think that baseball, something that's actually helped baseball along is fantasy baseball. And there probably should be a little bit of a wing or something for fantasy baseball as well in there. And I think you could make this into an all-out tourist attraction where everybody can go and enjoy the Hall of Fame for all different reasons. I think Cooperstown, it's a swing and a miss right now.
Yep, I agree. I think they could definitely use a rebranding or a reface. And while you're at it, don't let the Baseball Writers of America have the vote. Let fucking players or managers or people that were actually involved in the sport of the game have the say-so. I love that that's how the Heisman Trophy winners are voted on by previous Heisman Trophy winners. That makes sense to me, but whatever. I heard on your show that you were talking a little bit about the UFC, the upcoming UFC, or the one that just happened, actually. And you were talking about previewing that on your show. I want to hear your reactions to that now.
Absolutely, and I'd love to give it to you. I sat there. I was glued to my seat Saturday night, and I actually, Big D from the Happy Hour King Hap show, he and I went out. We had played a little poker. We did a poker tournament during the day with a lot of other social club members. After that, we went off to one of our favorite restaurants, the Rusty Can up in Byfield, Mass. Delicious, guys. If you haven't been there, anybody in Mass listening, you got to get up there. It's unbelievable. But we come back and we I sit down and I tune into the UFC. What I've seen, I'll start at the main event, right? Probably the poorest title fight, the most pitiful title fight, and the worst 5 rounds of mixed martial arts I have seen. This was a strategic fight. It was very tactical. You basically have one guy trying to lull you to sleep, and then come out guns a-blazing. The other guy's a kickboxing champion on staying on the outside, jabbing and throwing leg kicks, but it really lacked action. I wasn't a big fan of the fight. I did, however, have Adesanya to win.
Yeah.
But the co-main event.
Yes, sir.
My goodness.
Instant Hall of Fame fight.
Oh, this, I don't know if it's the greatest mixed martial arts fight I ever seen. It is easily the greatest women's mixed martial arts fight I've ever seen. And it could be the best fight I've ever watched in all mixed martial arts. And I've seen small fights at, the Armory up to, I've been live in Vegas ringside with UFC fighters. And I will tell you, I mean, one of my best friends in the whole world, my brother, Big John Johnson, undefeated CES heavyweight champ, and my one of my professors at he's a Crew John. He teaches me strike, and also Professor Ben Murphy, who will be on Thursday night on the Happy Hour, King Hap. I mean, we watch all these fights. The bottom line is that there was never action like that the entire time. One of the things with Joanna Jędrzejczyk is her chin has actually been called into question after her last couple of fights. The great Mike Dolce always says that the weight cut is the issue. She was having trouble making weight. She actually had a much better camp, didn't have trouble making weight this time. Those punches she absorbed were bombs. These women were throwing bombs. And you know what? We had spinning back fists, elbows, knees, everything getting landed. I mean, they were blocking the majority of these strikes that were thrown with their face, which is pretty amazing. And I don't know if you guys follow Joanna on social media, but she's had some accessories added to her repertoire. And I mean, she looks fantastic. At the end of that fight, she looked like Frankenstein. That was scary.
Yeah.
Wow.
For sure.
I've been seeing the memes float around on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and all that stuff. She is the Brain from Pinky and the Brain. Just a big swollen forehead. It was nasty, and you could see it getting bigger as the fight went on. It just kept growing and growing, and it's like, oh my god.
And the champ was just aiming for that. I say the champ because her name's difficult to say, but my god, people will know her name now. But those punches, she was
Weili.
Yeah. There you go. Her. But yeah, dude, she was targeting that forehead, and she was throwing punches. And the forehead isn't exactly a great place to punch somebody. It actually hurt, but she was targeting that forehead, and that thing was growing at a rapid pace. I could not believe what that woman looked like at the end of the fight. But my God, what a fight! I'm sure you gentlemen felt the same way. Am I right?
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. We're gonna have another episode later on this week to have our fight companions on here with us to talk about that pay-per-view in full detail, because it was such an amazing fight. It's one that I'm going to go back and watch again and just enjoy it and study it. And like you said, they were landing all kinds of flashy shit. It wasn't just that they were standing there trading, traditional bombs. They were throwing flashy shit and all kinds of wild technique. The MMA style that people are employing today is insane compared to even 5 years ago.
You think back at somebody like a Tank Abbott or Ken Shamrock. Some of these people that were actually contenders and champions back in the day wouldn't even be, gatekeepers now. Don't get me wrong, I was a big fan back then. I love me some Tank Abbott. I loved, Shamrock back then. But my goodness, it's anybody in the top 20 would absolutely destroy a lot of the top contenders from just 5 years ago.
Oh yeah, I agree. Zach, you got any final thoughts on the UFC card or anything?
No, not really. It was great and not so great at the exact same time. Stylebender took a page out of Tyron Woodley's book and didn't play the game of challenge the counterpuncher. And it makes for a boring fight, but at the same time, he had to do what he had to do to keep his belt. I would not want to stand in the same ring as Yoel Romero. He is just a chiseled out of granite man. So I can't blame him, but as a fan, it's not fun to watch people stand and just look at each other the whole time. So he'll move on. he's a superstar in the making for sure. He's getting a bigger name for himself, and he's still undefeated. And obviously, this wasn't a very exciting fight, but there's more to come, and he's on the right track to being a huge superstar for the UFC.
I got a question for you two fellas. Now, the next fight that's coming now, Professor Ben Murphy, as always, makes fun of me. He says that I like the juice babies. And I do. Yoel Romero, I mean, Jesus Christ, this guy, I mean, like you said, hammer and chisel, this man was made with. But Stylebender's next opponent, Paulo Costa. What do you guys think about that? I'm thinking that this is going to be a messy, messy fight. You got a guy who basically is going to bull rush the entire time against a kickboxing champion. And I mean, the guy has, his credentials in kickboxing are almost unparalleled in all of martial arts. But y'all going to charge a kickboxer. What do you guys have any opinion on this fight yet? I mean, Paulo Costa looks almost unbeatable. At the same time, so does Stylebender. This one, I think, is going to be a fight for the ages.
It could be a good clash of styles, but it could also end in a similar fashion as Masvidal and Askren. You're going to push the issue, and the kickboxer is going to sit back and throw the bomb right where you're headed. And I could see it going either way. Traditionally, I like the idea of, if you've got somebody who is flashy on their feet, to try to bull rush them and get them on the ground. And if that's able to happen, then I would be interested to see what Stylebender is able to do from his back.
That'd probably be a long day for Stylebender. Who knows? Like I said, I'm excited to see that fight. Gentlemen, well, I got you. Why don't you go ahead and tell me? Favorite mixed martial artist of all time. Who you guys like?
Go ahead, Zach. I'm going to think for a second.
Man, my immediate reaction is John Jones, but he's almost fallen off as of late. Frankly, I don't give a shit about his out of the ring antics. That doesn't really bother me per se. It's just, I don't know. He almost seems like he doesn't care at the moment. You know, his fights are lackluster. He hasn't finished a guy in a long time. So I want to say him, but I don't know. It's for me. I think it's either him or Anderson Silva.
Yeah, those are obviously two great ones, and obviously two Hall of Famers. I think John Jones is tremendous, and I'll tell you what about John Jones. The one time I actually won a betting against John Jones, which is actually crazy. I was live in Vegas, and I took Matt Hamill. The odds were pretty nice. I was
the DQ.
Oh my God! He got up afterwards. He smashed his face so bad. He gave a promo saying how terrible it was. He didn't know he won because he's deaf. And plus, he was, severely concussed. But he's like, I'm really sorry. And I was like, what? I couldn't believe that I actually went up and cashed that ticket. But that was pretty fun. That was a pretty funny the only funny John Jones story that I can think of. But yeah, I did bet against him. His one technically loss, even though he got it for beating the hell out of that guy too bad.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to go GSP.
I do love me some GSP as well.
Yeah, George St. Pierre. He is one of those true mixed martial artists. He was one of the guys back whenever the UFC was still growing and building that was doing something a little bit different, and he was trying to be the best overall instead of just the best in one particular focus. Mm-hmm. And that's why he had so much success, and he changed the game, much like guys like John Jones and those guys changed the game with their flashy attacks. So for me, it's GSP. Because he was around whenever I was getting into the sport.
Yeah, he was huge back then. He still is one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest. But he was back then. Forget about it. A favorite fighter of mine, and always has been. I love me some Frank Mir. Frank Mir, a heavyweight Brazilian jiu-jitsu, just genius. He's one of my favorite fighters to watch because he's knocking people out. He's getting knocked out. He's breaking people's arms. He's getting his arms broken. His jaw broken. That was he's a really fun fighter to watch. I wanted to get a feel, see how you guys felt.
That roll through knee bar on Brock Lesnar is the stuff of legends.
Yep.
Lesnar is one of my other favorites, but back to the juice baby thing,
Gotcha. Yeah, you're probably Sean Shirk and Jeff Munson guy, huh?
I did like Munson. He was funny, man. Munson. He was this tall and just an animal. Abu Dhabi champion, though, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think he's known for his north-south position. That's what he really bullied people on. But Hap, thanks so much for coming on. We've been bumping our gums for well over an hour now. I appreciate you coming on. Tell the people where all they can find you and all the things that you do.
I appreciate that, guys. Well, if you are looking for a grime and everything, we got the Happy Hour King Hap. We usually release that on Thursday nights. That's available on Apple Pod, things like that. Go ahead on there. The Happy Hour Social Club. I mean, that's where it's at, guys. All of our social club members are entitled to benefits. Plus, it's just a network of great people. You can go ahead and give it a like on Facebook. You'll see that there's plenty of people in there along with plenty of office for you. Wednesday nights, the legend Lenny Melnick Fantasy Sports Network. Myself and my co-host Taco have a show called The Happy Hour Fantasy. And when I tell you it's a great show, live interaction, we have a VIP chat room. Guys, get in there, ask some questions. And also, while I got you, I just wanted to let you guys know that right now, because it is fantasy baseball season, the legend Lenny Melnick and the lady Andrea Lamont have a draft guide on there for everybody who's looking for fantasy input. This will help you tremendously. It'll help you control the draft, guys. When I tell you this is an excellent piece of material, I think it's $15. I figured I'd throw it out there because you know what? It's one of my secrets. It should be one of you guys' secrets as well. You know, if you are doing fantasy network, Lenny Melnick, or you come listen to the Happy Hour, I'm going to give you all kinds of sleepers and things like that. One last thing that I would be crazy if I didn't mention is the Wicked Big Sox fan, myself and Big Joe. I mean, we got about 11,000 followers. This is a great website. If baseball fans, you cannot go wrong. This is the greatest website, in my opinion, on Facebook for excellent memes. They're funny. I know that you guys have checked it out, and I appreciate that. It's an excellent site, guys. The Wicked Big Sox fan, Happy Hour Social Club. Get on there, like them. Let's get this going. Let's have a great baseball season.
Hell yeah, man. And, thanks to everybody that tuned in to see Hap. We've got a ton of voicemails from the listeners in the social club that we're going to play at the tail end of the episode. Just kind of let those run so that you can kind of see the excitement that comes along with the Happy Hour Social Club. And guys, we just wanted to throw out a few admin notes for the Nest podcast. We have something we call the 2-minute drill. And what that is every time your team loses or they trade their best player and it pisses you off or whatever they do that you don't like, we've got a toll-free, or not a toll-free, but a phone number set up so that you can call and bitch and complain and moan, because a lot of people don't want to hear it, but we want to hear it, especially if you've had a few too many to drink that night. Also, on the Nest merch store, we have this beautiful new t-shirt available. It says "Baseball isn't boring, you're boring," and it's got a sweet little logo on the side that kind of rips off the MLB logo and all that good stuff. It's a pretty shirt. The link is going to be in the description. Check back with us on Wednesday night. Like I said earlier, we're going to have our special fight companion where we're going to have Justin and Wallow from the Locker Room Talk podcast come on and talk about UFC 248 and start to get hype for UFC 249, which we're super, super excited about, that Khabib and Tony Ferguson fight. Who you taking in that fight, King?
You know what? I like Ferguson. I'm a jiu-jitsu guy. I mean, honestly, it's tough to pick against Khabib, but I just think that his chin's getting tested here. And one thing, he's a great takedown artist, guys, and he's gonna get Ferguson down. But Tony Ferguson is one of the most effective fighters off his back. You be careful because he's gonna injure him from his back, and Khabib's never dealt with something like that. This fight is totally up for grabs. In my opinion, it's 50-50. I say Ferguson.
I'm Ferguson as well. Like you, I know Ferguson can fight off his back, and that man just simply doesn't give a fuck. So he's going to go in and he's going to throw bombs. And look at the last few fights that he's had. He's left people looking like hamburger meat.
Those two dudes.
I mean, remember Paul Cerrone too.
Yeah. Go ahead, Zach. What were you saying?
Khabib and Ferguson are going to fight at least 3 times.
Oh, you think it'll be a trilogy?
Oh, I mean, one is not enough to see what can really happen.
Well, let's get one under the
Right.
lights first before we start projecting anymore. This fight has a history of falling apart at the last minute. So
It does, but I'll tell you what, a trilogy would be a gift to all martial arts fans, in my opinion.
you're right about that. Hap, thanks again for coming on. Zach, as always, thanks for listening, and we'll see you on Wednesday, and we'll see you back here next Monday night. Peace.
Take it easy, guys.
Thanks for listening. New episodes are recorded every week.
All right, let's go ahead and send some of those voicemails up.
Saw the
Nice.
ad on Facebook tonight. Super excited. Can't wait to hear King Hap on the show. Love it.
Get a pick for King Hap here. See what's going on in the AL East. What do you think? I need a lock of the week like your legendary NFL picks. What team in the AL East can I go running up to that betting window and cash in big? Win totals. Come on, don't let me down. Legendary. 10 for 11 you were in the NFL. What can you be for me this time around?
What do you got?
Absolutely. You know that I'm going to say Baltimore, but I'll tell you what, the other lock I like is I love Baltimore, but I really like the Chicago White Sox over 84. That's another great pick, and I'll tell you what, that team is going to be. No one knows. Watch how good that team's going to be.
Yeah,
The Chicago
I agree.
White Sox.
I agree. They're going to be a sneaky good team this year.
Do you guys run this
Hey,
on the
what's up, guys?
show?
Say again. I'm sorry.
You guys don't run the. You guys run the voicemail on the show?
We're still live.
Yeah, that's what I was just double checking because these people I'm happy that they're all actually in there. They should. This is an excellent segment. I appreciate everyone calling in. These guys deserve your support. Go ahead and give them a like on Facebook, guys.
Oh,
Sorry to
thanks,
interrupt you, fellas.
No, you're good.
Thanks for having King Hap on for us. I got a question for King Hap. Who do you have for a breakout candidate this year? Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Breakout candidate.
I actually got two people here that we're gonna see for a breakout candidate, guys. Number one is Eloy Jimenez, Chicago White Sox. Let's stick with that theme. This guy is gonna be MVP candidate this year. You heard it here from me. Don't know how you guys feel about this gentleman. I've been drafting him since he was in the minors for a couple of years in fantasy. He did break out a bit last year. This year is going to be monstrous. Eloy Jimenez is going to be your breakout candidate. And then I'm almost stealing this one from the legend Lenny Melnick, fellas. But I will tell you that Frenchie Cordero in the NL is going very late in drafts. I mean, very late in drafts. This guy is going to have he's going to have a breakout season. They've traded away most of their outfielders. And the bottom line is, this gentleman is going to get a lot of playing time. Like I said, the legend always states, and he has all the tools to become a potential breakout. Not to the level of an Eloy Jimenez, but Frenchie Cordero, Eloy Jimenez, you watch out for these guys this year. They're going to have monster breakout years. I appreciate the call. Thank you, guy.
Last one.
Hi, I just wanted to call and say that I noticed on Facebook today your special guest for the night is King Hap. Well, I listened to his weekly podcast, and I'm very excited to hear what his predictions are for the AL East this upcoming baseball year. His podcast is always very informative, so I'm very much looking forward to tonight. And thank you so much for having him on. I look forward to hearing it.
All right. I didn't catch that person's name, but if I was going to go ahead and give you my picks of how the AL East is going to pan out, I'm thinking that you're going to have the New York Yankees are going to end up toughing it out coming in first, followed by the Devil Rays, which it pains me to say are going to squeak out past the Red Sox. The Blue Jays and the Orioles are going to be at the bottom of the barrel, with the Blue Jays probably coming in a little bit above them, but the Orioles will come in well above the 54 wins needed to go ahead and cash the tickets.
Call me a homer, but I'm saying that the Red Sox lock up that second wild card spot. They'll,
All
have,
right,
they'll
all
have
right.
to go on the road and win that wild card game, but they'll be there.
All right. Maybe we'll have to bet some pizza on that.
Hey, I'm down.
I appreciate the phone calls, guys. Thank you so much for everyone who left the messages. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much for calling in. Feel free to call back again anytime, whether you've got bitches, moans, complaints, or you just want to ask us questions. We'll be happy to answer any of those as well. Hap, my man, thanks again for coming on. We'll have you back sometime, I'm sure.
Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it. I look forward to seeing some more of your awesome upcoming shows. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, thank you.